Well, thanks so much for the possibility to still be a part of this anniversary. I really wish I would be able to be there, but here I am as a floating head once again. And my presentation today is on Community.quantumland.art. If it sounds like a URL address, it's because it is, and I'm maybe not that creative on coming up with names, or I'm just very good at keeping up with the branding. In any case, this is a project, a recent project on sort of an effort to map out the various efforts in the international scene on working with quantum computing and creative practices. For some context, I am currently a researcher at the Center for Interdisciplinary Studies, ICIT at the University of Coimbra. And I am a Marie Curie fellow there with my project Impact, which is a very ICIT-esque name for this project. It stands for Integrated Interdisciplinary Music Practice and Quantum Computing Technologies. The DOI of this project is this one here. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit of a story of different efforts and different people and different events that have happened that are kind of being landmarks and references for telling this, global collective story of people using quantum computing with creative practice. This is what I did my PhD in, my dissertation, but fortunately I'm not anymore the only one doing this. So, oh, by the way, I should say a recent story. I'm only gonna start talking about in 2019, so it's a very recent story of people actually doing practical work with quantum computing. There are obviously many other people who've done work prior to that, but that's subject to another talk or a different text altogether. So in 2019, we could see these three different things happening in different places in the world. At Yale, Yale Quantum Institute, actually, the composer and performer Spencer Topol was doing a residency, and he was working with their experimental devices. He worked with Luc, Kyle Cerniak and Luc, I can't remember his last name. I think they were then graduate students, and he worked on sonifying some of the signals from those quantum machines. Same year, at the same time, Professor Alexis Kirk and Eduardo Rec Miranda in Plymouth University, they were also working, doing their first steps with quantum computing, and I think they were working with machines by Rigetti. And also in 2019, me, yours truly, with a team of people at the hackathon, we were also working with quantum computing. This was a hackathon at the Schilthorn at the top of Swiss Alps. It was a great hackathon organized by IBM. And my team with Edo, Giovanni, Mohamed and Alberto, they were all Italian. It was kind of a coincidence, but we actually even won a community award back then, and this was for the first iteration of the quantum synthesizer. 2 years later, and now I'm gonna do a plug-ola here, of course, I produced my film recital, The Gedanken Room. I published my dissertation, Adventures in Quantum Land, where you can also read some of the earlier experiments before 2019 of what was happening. And also, the QAC toolkit was released as part of, as a Max package, which is distributed on the Max Package Manager. This is a toolkit for musicians and artists to build, run, and simulate quantum circuits in this visual programming environment. But also in 2021, there was an event happening in Spain, like a STARTS Science, Technology and Arts event in AI and Music, where composer Reiko Yamada was doing some music interpreting quantum randomness. There was also the first quantum design jam at the New School in New York, the first ISQCMC International Symposium on Quantum Computing and Musical Creativity was happening in Plymouth. I was one of the co-organizers of this. And even an art exhibition in Berlin, the Quantum Blur, Making the Invisible Visible, by Roman Lipsky in collaboration with James Wooten. The next year we start seeing some books being published, like Quantum Computing in the Arts and Humanities, also some events like this one in London, and yet another book on the same year, at the end of the year, the Quantum Computer Music book, which is kind of a reference and landmark for defining this field. Next year, which was last year, we start seeing like another art exhibition in New York, another symposium in Barcelona. These are all different independent things happening. Another event in Oxford, another in Las Vegas at the DEF CON, then in Norway, in Berlin, the second edition that I was also a co-organizer. And so you can see that it's just like an explosion of things happening, and it starts to become really hard to keep up with everything that is happening in so many different places. So this is where I start realizing that we need to figure out some way to bring this collective, to organize or to facilitate this collective effort. And I mostly just wanted to have two things. On the one hand, I wanted to have some sort of platform that will make it easier to collaborate, to meet other people that are interested in exploring this intersection. Also just to know what's happening, what's gonna happen next. But also, at the same time, I think it would be helpful to have some sort of a platform that help us keep a record of what is being done, so that we can all also look back collectively and see how the field is progressing and everything. I guess the first one is the easier, maybe, perhaps, I don't know, the easier one to explain, I guess, for me at least, for what I'm presenting right now. I started trying to be more social online, and I'm not very big on social media. I only have Twitter and I barely use it. But I also started like building a newsletter, which is a mix of my own things and things about the community. And I've used this as an outlet also for explaining the thought behind, for example, coming up with a community. Why is this needed, and what would it be like? So obviously, when we are talking about symposiums and conferences, we often see more of an academic world attending this. But what I'm trying to create here, these communities, is also with creative artists. And so it may happen in several times that they won't have access, an institutional affiliation and access to travel grants. Maybe nowadays access to travel grants may be a challenge for both academics and non-academics, but that's another story. But so I realized that this community needed to be online first for this. And so this is why one half of this project, Community.quantumland.art, is an online forum, which is GitHub discussions, which works very much like a forum. It has different categories, and anyone, literally anyone, can post on it. The other thing about the record, on how to keep a record, I thought a lot about this, and I immediately thought, well, I could just build a website with my HTML, JavaScript, and CSS chops, but probably it would be hard to articulate with other people. And then it would just be me doing this thing. So then I turned towards more visual interfaces like Notion. But if you ever try to build a website with Notion and make it public on the web, you'll notice that it's really hard, and it's really slow, really. I then also looked into other platforms like VicPress or VitePress and Gitbook, but they all had their pros and cons, but more than just a matter of interface, it was also a question of connecting things. And so this is when I came across this article by Maggie Appleton called A Brief History of and Ethos of the Digital Garden, which has this really interesting philosophy of behind this idea of a digital garden, which basically is a way to conceptualize a website as a collection of things that are, or pages, right, that are all related, but that they're not finished, they're just growing. It's like a garden, but digitally, online. I was trying to scroll to a very nice picture that she has included here that illustrates this. And so this is what I thought was what I needed for this project. Something that is not just like a finished website, but something that is clearly in construction. I mean, I'm trying to map out something that is still very much still happening and yet to happen in some ways. So this is what informed me on building this platform. So I guess at this moment I should just give you a live demo of what it looks like right now. So this is the home page, and there is a link to go to the forums on GitHub. And then the other part, maybe I should have articulated this better, is the record. It consists of a database, which will draw from things on the forum directly, because any post on GitHub discussions, it uses Markdown, and all the pages on this website/database are Markdown files. So it's very easy to move one to the other. And so there's 5 different categories here: events, works, writings, people, and software. And for example, if I go to events, right now there's just one event. I'm really looking forward to getting some help, to have other people helping me add some things to here. And so here is just a page it's basically the public information about this event, and here's a list of all the papers that were presented at this event. And if I click it, it goes to the page or node of that paper, and I see that this was written by all these people, and all these links in all these nodes, they appear graphically as a graph here at the bottom of the page. So if I just hover my mouse over the paper, I can see that it's connected to all these different nodes. And if I go, for example, to Paulo, who's an author of that, this page doesn't have anything in it, but there are other pages that link to it. So it's possible to see how it is connected, not only by inserting links inside of it, but only by having it being linked to from other things. So I can see that Paul is actually the author or is involved on a couple compositions. Okay, so that's basically the idea. And then I'm also building some sort of flags, frequently asked questions on how to contribute. And basically, I'm just going to go back because so what is needed to be involved with this is basically just a GitHub account, a free GitHub account. And I realize that this first step, sometimes it scares some people. And what I decided to do very recently was to do a workshop, an introduction workshop on GitHub for the entire University of Coimbra, which is now online. I actually recorded it, and we recorded it and posted it online, so now everyone else can also attend it. Though bear in mind that it is in Portuguese. I decided that it would be fair to be more also inclusive, to do it in Portuguese, since I'm also in Portugal. And there are already a lot of resources to get started with GitHub in English online, but if you want to have some fun and see this 1 hour workshop on introduction from the very start, it's like I'm literally creating a new account at the very beginning. It's really from zero. Okay, so all the links that I've mentioned on this presentation was the Community.quantumland.art, which is a forum and database. I mentioned the newsletter, which is on quantumland.art, and my MSCA project, Impact. It's been lovely to talk to you. This is me, OCH, and thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you.